Welcome back to the Tide Hero Hangar. Happy Friday, everybody. This is Mike. Today I want to talk to you about Legends Transformers. I usually talk about Masterpiece on Friday, but so many people are jumping ship from Masterpiece to Legends, so I figured I'd throw a little guide together. I remember being new to the Legends, and a little bit of it was confusing at the time. It's probably way more confusing now than it was 3 years ago when I got into Legends, but we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about the different companies, some of the releases, not every single figure released, but a big bulk majority of what's going on with all the different companies that make Legends. Coming up. So the first company I want to talk about is DX9. I really feel like DX9 either started this whole thing or took the ball and ran with it with Legends. I remember, 2016, 2017, somewhere around there, that they went really hard. They made a lot of these Legends figures, and I remember wishing they were making them in Masterpiece. I remember seeing this set specifically and thinking, man, I wish I had an RC. Now we got several RCs in Masterpiece, so it's not a big deal, but I remember thinking, why are they making them so small? And I did like the price. I was like, wow, that's a great price, but they were 4 inches or around the 3.75, 4 inch scale, something along those lines. And so with that, they look pretty good for the size, but these are definitely dated molds because this was the very early Legend scale. They also made a Devastator Hulky, which is not... I never thought this was that great, but then in my mind I was thinking, well, this is all we really could get from Legends. This is as good as they can do, I guess. But we see now that Magic Square and New Age are doing much better than what we got in the early days. But in the early days, this still was interesting to see. There's still some figures that have never been made, like this Blur hasn't been made yet. There's going to be one coming from another company, but we haven't seen it in the Legend scale. So there's still some older figures that haven't been remade by modern companies with modern types of designs. And so with that, DX9 is still relevant in the Legends game. They also gave us some Seekers. That was pretty good. And with that, they also gave us the Dinobots, the original molds of Dinobots. And so they did do quite a bit to kick off or start Legends. And then their Soundwave wasn't that bad. Then there was other companies that would knock these off. They make KOs of these designs. And we are going to talk about one of those, but there were several that made these. And they called these the War in Pocket line. And then a lot of the knockoffs used variations of War in Pocket something or another to knock these off. Unique Toys was another one early on, one of the early creators of these Legends figures, and they did a lot of Headmasters, and here's 2 of them. Now this 2-pack set is actually up for order in stock, yeah, at a cart at Show Z, and so you can go there and get these for $26. That's $13 a figure. Now they're significantly shorter than the knockoffs we're used to seeing. This is 3.7 inch, and I think the knockoffs are more like 4.1 or 4.2. So close to a half an inch shorter than the knockoffs, but they still look pretty good, and if you want to get your hands on these, then you still can for a pretty affordable price for the Headmasters. And Unique Toys also did a few other sets, like this one here with the Cerebros, and I don't think they ever went on to actually making a Fort Max, but I might be wrong. They might have made a Fort Max, and I just wasn't around for that and didn't catch that one, but I think these do look pretty good, and I think that overall they did a pretty decent job on these, and I wouldn't mind picking this set up. If this one came back out for $26, I would definitely be all over getting this, because I don't have a Legends Cerebros. And it's funny too, because it's like the knockoff companies, the McFans Toys, we'll talk about that down the road, that knocked off all of these Headmasters, was picking and choosing which ones they would knock off, which I thought was a little strange, but it's still pretty cool that we still have sort of options for these down the road with McFans Toys KO oversizing them. Now I do want to say Toy World made a Wheeljack, and it is, in my opinion, a great Wheeljack, but too short. It's too small. It's 3.14 inches tall. Would have liked it a little bit taller than this, but it's still a great looking figure, an excellent figure. The only Legends Wheeljack I know of outside of maybe Iron Factory, if they made one, but so when it comes to G1 styling, it's the only one I know about. But I still think it's a very good figure, a very good option. Of course, I have that one in my own display. Toy World also got into Beast Wars. Yeah. So they made a Megatron. Their Megatron, I think they did this in a couple of different color schemes, but still it's the Transmetal Megatron, and it's interesting that they went that route. And I'm not sure if they made other figures. This is all I'm finding right now. But Toy World threw their hand in there to make some Legends stuff. But it seems like they stopped. But when people argue when it comes to Beast Wars, Legends scale is actually correct for Masterpiece scale if you got to mix them with your G1s. Speaking of the Beast Wars stuff, Transform Element actually made several. They made Black Arachnia, they made a Rat Trap, and a Scorponok, and of course maybe more. But I wasn't really trying to get all of them, and I was a little confused when they were making these, how deep they're going to go, how far they're going to go, how much competition we're going to have. But I do feel like I have their Black Arachnia. I feel like Black Arachnia was a really good figure. She feels good, she looks good. Transform Element did a good job with that. And then here we go with a Scorponok, and not what you would think is Scorponok. This is the Beast Wars Scorponok, Scorpion, and I think they all look pretty good. And I kind of wish I would have picked them all up, but still, I don't think that these are available anywhere anymore. I think they're pretty much sold out everywhere. So the next one I want to talk about is Iron Factory. Now this is sort of a stylized take on G1 characters. Some people say IDW, but I don't really see that 100% in there. But I do think that there are interesting designs, and I personally use Iron Factory for fillers. So if I pick a figure up as a filler until we get more of a G1 looking one. But there are a lot of collectors out there that go for the stylized look. They like the Iron Factory the most, and that is their go-to, that is their favorite, and I can understand that too, because we really are inundated with a lot of the very classic G1 because it sells the best. So if somebody says, hey, I'm just kind of tired of the classic G1 look and I want something completely different for my Legends than my Masterpiece, well, I could see that making sense. That's, in my mind, that's why people like the Iron Factory so much. They're also made relatively well for tiny figures, and they look pretty good. They're pretty interesting designs, and with that, since they're stylized, they don't have to look perfect in either mode. Then they can take some liberties with transformation and maybe make the transformation a little easier if they want to. I felt they've done that on a couple of figures, and I own about 6 of these, and that's just how I feel about the transformations a little bit. But at this point, there's tons of Iron Factory figures, and then they do slight repaints and remolds to the same mold and call it a different figure and character. So it's really hard for me to keep up with Iron Factory because I don't actually collect it, and those that do collect it seem to understand all the little subtle differences and nuances between them, but it's still something that exists if you're interested in collecting these in Legend scale. Okay, so now I'm going to get into talking about New Age. Now, New Age is what a lot of people would say feels like the Legends versions of Fans Toys. But I kind of feel like it's the Legends versions of Fans Toys paint level, but they're not 100% there design-wise to what Fans Toys does design-wise. They all look really good, but some of them I feel like are a little bit lacking, and they're a little bit small for my liking, but the vast majority of them I think look phenomenal. They look amazing, and the paint looks great. Not only do they make amazing looking figures, paint them very well, but they also offer up 6 different color variations. Seems minimal for each design, which I thought at first was overkill, but I'm starting to think it's kind of cool, and it's kind of fun that those are even available in any scale. So if you're a Masterpiece collector and say you want to pick up something like this is actually the size of the G1 Omega Supreme. And if you don't want to go out and buy a G1 Diaclone, you can go get this and have this in place of a G1 Diaclone for, it's still like $130 or something along those lines. Well, this was $184, so it's a bit pricey. And yes, these are getting more and more expensive as time goes by. And we're going to get into talking about Magic Square, but there's always that whole battle between this company and Magic Square. So I'm just going to try to feature some of the figures that they've made, but I want to show you the ones I feel like are their best figures. And I don't think their Prime is the best figure. I think this Cyclonus that they made is probably one of the best. And that's a fantastic looking figure. It matches the character. The paint looks amazing. They've made them in 6, 8 different color variations. I think they've done a fantastic job with that figure. So I would say better than Magic Square and best on the market currently, in my opinion, when it comes to Legend scale. Also, their Grimlock, and this is called Ymir, and this is a fantastic figure. Now, people, and I did point it out myself, they pick the flaws, like the inside of the lower leg needs to be covered up, and they're supposed to be including a cover for it. There's also a company that's knocked this off, but this is another figure that I feel like is just phenomenal. It's a fantastic figure. Looks great in both modes. I am still a bit blown away by how good that figure looks, and I'm quite pleased with it. So I am pleased with a lot of figures that they've made, and so with that, the paint just goes massively above and beyond, and it's just outstanding. And then their Ironhide is a solid evolutionary step, and this is a 2.0, so they're already getting into 2.0s where they're not satisfied with their first version and they want to make more money. I mean, they want to improve on their first version. Then there's a competition between these third-party companies, specifically like Fans Toys and X-Transbots, and we've got Magic Square and New Age. And competition is good for the consumer sometimes. And the New Age version of RC, this one is Pocahontas RC. This one is the Medic version. They call it H48G. But I do think this is the best RC version on the market right now. Even though there's 3 pretty sort of okay, decent options out there, I think this one's still the best. And, of course, in many different colors. I got the Magic Square. Well, I gotta say that I like Magic Square designs the most. I wish they would consistently offer a higher end paint job and really match their design with the paint to give you the whole thing. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they release a figure, it looks great, and there's, oh, it's tuned, so there's no paint on it at all. And then 3 or 4 iterations later, or maybe the next one comes a year and a half later, and it's painted well. Sometimes the next one's painted partially, and then another one comes out painted well. So there's a lot of kind of games they play, but I do like the designs the most. Maybe not their Seekers. A lot of people said they had issues with their Seekers. I'm still sticking with some old KO versions of Seekers. Are fine with me, but when it comes to this, I think New Age still beat them in the Seeker department. They gave us a good-looking side swipe right out the gate, and we could probably argue that it's better than Masterpiece. I mean, that's probably an argument that could be made and could hold water. So with that, I mean, Magic Squares does some good stuff. Some people don't like the materials, and I understand that. I really do understand that. They've put out a Gears and a Wind Charger, and I've got to say, reasonably priced. And this is $55 for 2 figures, so it makes them like $27 a piece, $27.50 a piece. But they do look really good on the shelf for Magic Square figures. But again, these aren't painted very well, and so will they put them out again since they're sold out? Will they put them out again with a good paint job down the road? Nobody actually really knows. They did a great looking Jazz, and I really like it, and a great looking Hound. So with that, I do think their Hound still looks better, just looking at pictures though, looks better design wise than what we got from New Age. Just wish it had some paint on it. Their Perceptor looked amazing. That's another really good figure from Magic Square. And one thing, you hear a lot of people talk a lot of trash about Magic Square, but you also see Magic Square selling out of a lot of their releases because they are the best looking designs. So I really think that people do put the money where their mouth is, and they buy what they think looks the best, and a lot of time it is Magic Square. But then again, I want to say Magic Square does a one run most of the time when New Age is putting out 6 of the same mold with slight paint variations. Now, of course, aesthetically it's all up to you, but I kind of like their Optimus Prime the most. I think that their Optimus Prime, both versions look great. Their 1.0 and their 2.0, I think they both look great. And the 1.0 is good enough for me. I don't really see a point of upgrading, but it's nice that it's out there. Maybe you can score a secondary market 1.0, because the 2.0 is pretty good, but I think the 1.0 is good enough. I also like their Skyfire, but I'm a little torn. I can't... One day I kind of like the New Age one better. One day I like the Magic Square better, but both of them are great options. I don't think you can go wrong with either option. And I kind of feel the same way about the Devastators. You look at both of them and you can say there's good things about one and good things about the other, pluses and minuses on both sides. So I really feel like they're almost a tie. I do like the design aesthetic of Magic Square, but New Age is thinner, more like the cartoon. So there's just your own expectation, what's canon in your head, what you think matches it the best, and I think that's the direction you should go. Price-wise, I think they're quite similar. So lastly, I just want to talk quickly about the wild card of Legends, which is McFan's Toys, which is one of those things. They KO oversize the DX9 versions, and usually they do something a little bit different than DX9. They add something or remold something or change something just a little bit and make them a little bit different, a little bit better. These are the cartoon versions. I really like the first run that looked more like the toy versions, and they had a much better look to them than just the bare bones plastic look. But they put this set out, and it's pretty cheap, a pretty good price, $100 for all 5 dinos. They did the same thing with the Headmasters here, but no Cerebros, which I thought was strange. But it's like I was picking and choosing which ones I got. Now I'm only missing a couple of these, but they put this out for $145 for 7 figures, which is a pretty good price to snag them up all at once. And I think that was pretty cool that they did it, but I was only missing a couple, 2 or 3, and I didn't want to buy the whole set again, so now I'm still missing those. McFan's Toys also makes their own molds. They do their own designs. They don't just knock them off, and a lot of third-party companies started either making upgrade kits or knocking off something, and then they start making their own figures because it's cheaper to just knock something off. Then they put their own money in developing their own figure. And I like their figures. They are a little bit on the bare bones plastic side, and they feel more like Magic Square figures. But with that, I do like pretty much every release that they put out. Unlike Magic Square and New Age, McFan's Toys does their own thing. Unless they're, of course, doing the exact same thing by knocking off one of Magic Square's, it seems like. Then they're putting out something that hasn't been made for Legends before, like this Rekar, and I like that. I think that's really awesome that they do stuff like that, and when they do put these figures out and add to your display, it's a value. It's a really good value for the consumer, for the collector, because we have all these options, and they're usually reasonably priced. Just like we're going to get this they call this the MS37 Sunstorm, McFan's Toys, and so we're going to get this one, and the thing is that no other company's making it, so they're going to make it, and it's really awesome that they're doing it. This might be the only way to get a Sunstreaker in Legends for some time. Still don't know when this one's coming out. They also have a Blur on the way, which seems to be a massive, massive upgrade to what DX9 did, even though DX9 is the only one available right now. When this one comes out, it will be better in my opinion. So I really think that this wildcard company that is the McFan's Toys Mechanics Studio. There's a lot of other names they go by, and they also pair up with Dr. Wu sometimes. So with all of that, such a great opportunity to get different figures outside of the regular companies making these. There's a ton more releases that I didn't cover because that would take like an hour to go through everything made for Legends. This is just a quick introduction to Legends and send you in the right direction if you're looking for something. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you in on the Legends? Are you out on Legends? Did you keep it at arm's length? Are you picking up 1 or 2 of the interesting characters that you see come out? Or are you switching over completely and that's all you do? Let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe to Dear Hanger out.